Happy Well Plum Day. I would like to take the opportunity today to present to you the Beethoven Sprint and invite you folks to join us for Beethoven Sprint this year from May 3rd to May 7th. Next week. Beethoven Sprint this year will be a two-legged sprint in Bonn, Germany and in Bucharest, Romania. And our main focus will be to work on Plone 6 and finish Plone 6. Beethoven Sprint started in 2017 and is closely related to Plone 6, I would say. We started with 14 people from 9 different countries. We gathered in Bonn, Germany. As you can, as said, to a certain degree, you can say that Plone 6 or the effort started at Beethoven Sprint. One of the main topics back then was the REST API, which already existed. But on top of Plone REST API, we started to build what we called back then SDKs. So we worked on both two implementations of one Angular, one React JS that worked on top of Plone REST API. I have to admit that back then I was personally still in the Angular camp. And we were working on that with quite a few people. But Rob and Roll made the bold move to start working on what was called Plone React back then, a React implementation for Plone, which became Volto and which became the default. And then Volto became the default front end for Plone 6. Nathan and Ramon also worked on what we called back then Plone Server, which they named Guillotina. Here's a picture where they presented the name Guillotina. The rest is history, I guess. In 2018, 14 people from 9 different countries gathered. We continued to work on Plone REST API, the work that Rob and Roll started and where others jump on that. We also worked on Pasanaga UI, on the UI framework for Plone 6 and the Pasanaga editor, and as well Plone REST API and other topics. In 2019, we had 20 people here in Bonn from 10 different countries. We continued our path to work on Volto, REST API, Pasanaga UI, and Guillotina and other topics. In 2010-20, we had 29 people, which was the record so far from 9 different countries. Unfortunately, due to the global pandemic, we had to went remote. In 2021, unfortunately, we had to skip it entirely due to the pandemic. But now it's 2022, and we have another Beethoven Sprint in the first week of May. We expect 40 to 50 sprinters from 10 different countries. We will have 20 participants, or we expect 20 participants in Bonn, 15 to 20 participants in Bucharest, Romania, organized by our friends from All the Web. And 5 to 10 people will join us remotely. The Plone Foundation declared the Beethoven Sprint a strategic mega sprint because we hope that it will be one of the biggest sprints that ever happened in the Plone community, which would be great. So let's see what we can accomplish together. As said, the main focus will be Plone 6, the front end and back end part of Plone 6. We won't focus that much on Plone Classic. There will be the Burschenschaft Sprint in May, organized by Johannes Ragam. So if you're more into Classic, I would highly recommend to go there. Volto and the new Plone 6 frontend is a mature and ready-to-use product already. It's used in production for many sites for many years already. But we will still focus on polishing the product to make it ready for Plone 6. One of the last blockers for Plone 6, or one of the last things that we have to do before we can do a final release of Plone 6 is add the new Slate editor. The Slate editor is supposed to replace the new the Draft.js editor that we're currently using in Volto, which shows its limitations. Or the web a few years ago started to create a plugin for Slate editor called Volto Slate for the European Environmental Agency, and it has been a pretty successful add-on since then, used by many companies, including my company and us. And we decided that it will become the new default editor for Plone. So we will work on that and get Slate editor in, and that will be the last blocker that we have to work on before we can move on to Plone 6. We have a few other things where we would like to polish Plone the product, or Plone 6 the product. We have a few remaining control panels that we have to fully implement. The idea is that you can run Volto standalone in a headless mode without the need to have Classic or Classic as a fallback. You can have that if you want, but we would like to finish all the control panels so that you don't have to. And at some point, maybe that's a bold statement, but at some point that you can run Volto headless without Classic and without the ZMI, because right now we kind of have three front ends, if you will, for Plone, and would like to remove a few so that you can run Plone with Volto alone, at least as an option. We plan to work on content rules, which need some love. We'll also work on improving the image handling, specifically source sets, to improve the delivery of mobile images and the mobile performance and the core web vitals. That's part of the overall performance optimization that we plan to work on. Source sets and images are part of the front-end performance. We also plan to work on back-end performance and improving that, mainly REST API calls, because Volto and Plone 6 or the Plone 6 stack are used in quite a few high-profile, high-volume websites and intranets outside, with hundreds of editors that work on the site at the same time, with hundreds of thousands or millions of visitors and users. And we plan to put effort into the optimization of that. We also plan to work on the deployment or what used to be the installer story. My colleague Eriko Andre will work on that for sure and improve things there. Setting up Plone 6 with Docker containers, make the installation easier. And we also plan to work on blocks. As you might know, there are more than 100 add-ons out there for Plone 6 or Volto already. Most of them are actually blocks. A block is like kind of a visual component in your CMS that is really reusable and configurable. We plan to continue to put effort into that, bring more blocks into core, discuss with what kind of blocks we want to be in core. We also plan to open source more blocks that we have in stock, and just start a discussion about what kind of blocks are supposed to be in Plone 6 in the long run and how we plan to collaborate. Feel free to join us for the sprint. We have a few spots left, both in Bonn and in Bucharest. If you can't make it on short notice, feel free to join us remotely. You can go to plone.org. The Beethoven Sprint is, I think, one of the first items on the events. Go there. There's a join link. Just click it, add your name to it. If you plan to join a sprint physically in Bonn or Bucharest, please reach out to me and let me know that you plan to come. And we will help you make the preparations. And now I would like to show you a few impressions of the Beethoven Sprint in our office in Bonn. So here you can see Plone developers gathering. We meet, we work on Plone together. We discuss things in depth that are hard to discuss over the internet, which might come as a surprise to a few people, that is really important and an essential part of our development process, that we meet in person and discuss things. We just have a good time together. As you can see here, we have a beautiful garden. We hope that spring will come soonish here in Bonn so that we can spend time outside as well and just have a good time together. As said, please join us for Beethoven Sprint. Join us to work on Plone 6, make Plone 6 a reality. An open source community can only work if people contribute. Feel free to join us. Reach out to me. Join us in Bonn or Bucharest or remotely in the first week of May, from May 3rd to May 7th. Happy Plone Day, everybody.